Good evening, everyone. Welcome to KOTR. Tonight's broadcast will be Ramblings of the Chaotic Mind. I also want to wish everyone a happy holidays and safe travels. Welcome to KOT. And hit the mute button. The video in the background. But happy holidays and safe travels for all those who will be traveling this weekend. I'm traveling on New Year's. For me, it's that time of year where, it's kind of nice to see some good things happen. Spending time with friends and family. But tonight, we're going to have a little fun musings of the ramblings of the chaotic mind and things that I've seen transpire from the past few weeks. Talk about a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. I just haven't done it. And it kind of just would play into, for anybody who's watched the video, moves and counter moves that I had done. I'm also going to point out some of the moves and counter moves. Give some of my opinions and theories about the UN, sanctuary cities. And what I see that may be coming up, things that may be coming about. With that said, let us get started. As we all know, today, this week we used the U.S. used its veto in the UN to stop them trying to say, well, we can't move our U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. And then today, Thursday, they went and did a vote, basically saying we can't do it. Okay. Then later on the day, I'm sure you guys have watched or heard the reports and watched some of the videos. I mean, Nikki Haley. I mean, I must say she shocked me. She's done things, said things that I didn't see coming when they appointed her to be that position, and it's kind of nice to see, the U.S. We talk about make America great again. It's nice to see that America is starting to take back its values, take back its, start focusing on America. I mean, I know many of you probably didn't watch when Trump was overseas doing his little business tour in Asia and South Korea, China, and all that. But his main emphasis point to each of the nations that we're going to respect your sovereignty. We're not going to meddle with your politics, tell you your politics, because they differ from ours, can stop us from negotiating business deals and stuff. It's important to understand he's showing the world that he's willing to respect a sovereign nation's own political structure, even though we may not agree with it, and not push our ideologies, our freedoms, our values upon another nation, another sovereignty. I mean, we have examples. Time after time, we have examples when we try to interfere in other sovereign nations' policies and political stuff. Or as I'm going to clearly point out here, with us being part of the UN, we're always the spear point. We're always the hammer. You know, we're always the military force that is used. In doing so, who gets the blame? They don't blame the UN. They blame America and Americans. They blame our country for being the police force of the world. They never blame the UN. And it's a nice, dirty little trick. It's how the UN can keep their hands clean, not get them dirty. You know, one, no nation, no country has a right to tell us where we can put our embassy. If we chose to move it, so be it. Or we choose to remove our embassy from a nation, so be it. That's our right. You know, I know there's varying different opinions and views about Jerusalem. I'm not going to get into that. I have my own opinions and views to that. I'm not going to get caught up in who's right, who's wrong, which is creating further division. I think most of us understand and know when it comes to that area how volatile things are. But at the same token, why keep our embassy in a country that is against one of our closest allies? A country that produces hate, not peace. But the UN, they're peacekeepers. We want peace. You know what? I hope, after what I heard Nikki Haley say when she last addressed the UN, you know, we're gonna remember this. You know, when it comes time to pay our dues, so we do pay the most to the UN. And that's the other misconception. Okay, we're part of this body. You're using us for not so much our politics, but our military. We're paying you to send our military to these various countries to, in most cases, it ends up fighting, not peace. We become the police. But it should be the other way around. You should be paying us for our military. There's no illusion there. That's reality. That's business. You know, that's being accountable. I mean, let's look at the UN. I mean, the UN, in a sense, in my opinion, it's no better than Blackwater and all the other various mercenary outfits. That's what the UN is. It's not a peacekeeping effort. Yes, they might do a lot of good, but behind that good, they're taking millions and millions of dollars. And there's always seems to be fighting a war at some front. Or when you need them, they're never there. But yet they expect you to pay millions of dollars to them. Well, you know what? Here's what we need to do with those millions of dollars we give to the UN. Start putting it back in our infrastructure. Put it back in our veterans. Put it back into our debt. And we're no longer going to be the police of the world. It's about America and America's views and opinions, what the American people want. We want a better country. We want a strong country, one that can protect itself. But at the same time, we're tired of being blamed for everything in the world. I mean, we're always going to be hated. Why? Because we have freedoms. We have liberty. We have rights, equality. Those are the very concepts that every non-free nation, non-free sovereignty hates and opposes. That's going to make us hated above all else. You have the right to believe and practice on whatever your religious belief is. Practice whatever holiday belief you have. It's not dictated that it's only this. Now, each of us come from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, but one thing we all have in common, we're Americans. We're not UN, United Nations. Yes, we have multiculturalism, but those that come here, become legal U.S. citizens, become Americans. There's a big difference there. And there's nothing wrong with protecting our allies, having allies. Well, we don't need a governing body to do that. Because that governing body does not represent we the people. Does not represent America. As they clearly shown today. And yes, we have, and it's time, it's been long overdue that we pull completely out of the UN. We're done with you. You know, then I know some of you have probably seen the reports. We've all seen photos of U.S. equipment here on U.S. soil. And I was doing a little research on that today. I found it interesting. The first article that popped up about that, especially dealing with the Chicago thing, was Snoop's, saying it was fake. I just thought that was hilarious. First thing to pop up on Google search was Snoop's. UN to Chicago, fake news, fake. Just against some of the videos I've seen of certain politicians in Chicago asking for it, but hey, you know, I guess those certain news networks faked it, except for it was, oh wait, it wasn't what I would call any of us. I mean, it was actually mainstream news. Thank you for calling them fake. But it was, I mean, wow. Of course, they didn't list, you know, those news agencies. They were, I think it was Zero Hedge that they said was fake news. Funny, I didn't first hear about the article on Zero Hedge. One, I don't go to the site. Don't even subscribe to it. You know, I didn't see that until it was being floated around on Twitter. But it brings up a theory, a reality that we might want to start facing here. And this is the danger of these sanctuary cities. I've pointed this out. They're going against our Constitution. They're going against the laws that our federal government has passed, ignoring Supreme Court justices. And yes, there's a danger there because, you know, especially a couple of these states, we know they have UN stuff in their state laws recognizing the UN. You know. And that could be a very problematic thing because, let's say, they want to enforce certain things. One, we don't need no foreign entity to do anything on our soil. We have our own military. We have our own National Guard. And we have our militia, which, if you think about it, the National Guard has kind of replaced the militia in many senses. Another tactic that's been used throughout the years to take away from the militia. And we live in a country that I'm pretty sure almost every household has guns. And we've heard the talks, we've heard the UN talk about, you know, we shouldn't have all those weapons, people shouldn't have access to them. We forget the part, we are a sovereign nation, we are our own country. And that's, I've pointed out in various videos, why has no foreign entity ever tried to attack us on our home soil? Because they learned that lesson during the Revolutionary War, the French Indian War, and the Civil War. Everybody, every U.S. citizen has guns. But let's look at these sanctuary cities. Almost all these sanctuary cities are opposed to what? Second Amendment. They don't want you to have guns and high-capacity ammo. I could see them calling out, you know, in a way to, in their idea of a way to feed and break off from being a state of the United States. It's something we need to actually watch out for. I mean, it's just a theory, but it's something to look out for because we've seen how desperate things are getting, how desperate our politicians are getting. When you start opposing the Supreme Court, opposing a president, opposing even Congress as a state, there is problems there. Which is why it's even more important now than ever to remove ourselves from the UN. Because come next year, our dues are due. Well, they clearly stated what they thought about us today. We're done. That should be the Americans' mindset. That should be what everybody should be going to Trump's Twitter page and demanding remove us from the UN. It does not hold American values. It does not hold we the people what we want. It doesn't recognize our sovereignty. Instead, it uses us for our money and our military power. It uses us to be the scapegoat, the bad guy. Moves and counter moves is what we're seeing play out more and more. I mean, we just had some EU leaders trying to say what we did was illegal with the taxes. I know, my mouth dropped too when I read it. Seen that and actually went and read it. It's like, what? All right, screw you. Let's talk about EU. Britain, France. Let's not forget taxation without representation. I know they don't teach that in schools anymore, but that's how we got our Constitution. That's how we became a sovereign nation of free people, free thinkers. Obviously, this concept and ideology that we have that makes our country so great even goes against the ethics and ideologies of the UN. Because, I mean, in a sense, today, what happened today was kind of a shot heard around the world in itself, if you think about it. There was innuendos, so, make of them what you want, but we're going to remember this when it comes time to pay you money. Or the next time you call for us for aid. And we know that This ain't old ideology, guys. Because we had loyalists back when, you know, we were growing. Our founders were signing the Constitution, creating our government. You know, we had members that was loyalists, which were they can earn that term because they were still loyal to the King of England. Hasn't changed. We still have our loyalists. And yes, they're just not Democrats. They're also Republicans. They are the ones who do not recognize we the people. They don't recognize our freedoms, our liberties, our rights. These are the very same ones that would call upon the UN of saying our nation's being is under siege and would welcome them onto our soil. Peacekeepers they are not. Anybody remember the movie Black Hawk Down? You guys all know that was based on actual events, right? Where was the UN? Can we say countless other places as well? You know, I'm not saying that these sanctuary cities would ever do that, but it's something that we have to question. We have to realize that it is possible. Because, I personally have not seen a UN vehicle anywhere where I've traveled in the United States. And I don't travel much, but I've been around. I've been going from Ohio to North Carolina, up and back and forth for the past few years. I've not yet seen UN vehicles. Because I know there was a video at a Kellogg's factory of a bunch of parked UN vehicles. But I also do know that we do allow foreign countries to come on to our military bases and train. So that's been fairly documented. Just like we go to their countries and train. What? Why? Because we are allies. So I'm not going to brush the fact that it probably those pictures and videos, but videos can be a little bit harder to, disbelieve in because it's video evidence, but we know it can be edited and modified as well. But yeah, no. It's one of those, nothing's happening here. These aren't the droids you're looking for. The very fact is, it's up to us to be vigilant. It's up to us to state our opinions, make our voices heard. Now, yes, I seen many things this year, and I'm going to cover that in a video for the review of 2017. We've seen a lot happen. Good things, bad things. We've also seen many moves and counter moves. We're seeing our politicians for what they are, corrupt politicians, almost all of them. Every day we're hearing new stuff, seeing new stuff. And they're not hiding it. They're putting it right there in front of your face. I stumbled across something earlier. They're giving the numbers. The last time we had a major tax increase or decrease where we gained was actually under Reagan. You know what happened? He got reelected the following for another term. And trust me, many of our politicians do not want to see Trump as president for another year, or another 4 years. You know, but at the same point, I know I'm not always going to agree with things he does. And there's a warning to all of you. Because we see what he's doing. But also understand, when he does something that goes against us, we have to stand up even to him when he does it. Because, I could say many things about the moving of the embassy. But I could also play devil's advocate, point something out, and the difference between our two views on certain matters, especially when it comes to religious matters. We have a different view between the Jews and Christians. There is a difference there. I also look at it this way. Israel is an ally, but it's not my country. This is my country, United States. My country comes first before any other. Which is something I think it's important that many of you guys understand. Because we are, it's great to protect our allies. It's great to be there for our allies. But we still have to put our sovereignty, our nation, our country first. And I've stated at the beginning, I'm all for us moving our embassy, because why keep our embassy in a country that does not want peace, won't even recognize our ally as a sovereign nation? But look where we're moving it to. Look at the conflict that it's going to cause. There is going to be conflict there. It's a big conflict of interest. But I like to look at the upside to it. By moving it there, it puts it in an area to where we're not just dealing with one ideology or one community. We're dealing with multiple communities and belief systems. It is an ideal place for it. And even though most of those communities don't get along with each other, it becomes a symbol, in a sense, a symbol of a way to unite, to find peace. And I know that view is definitely not going to be shared with hardly any of you. But sometimes we just have to look farther ahead, look towards things, and get away from the things that they keep trying to divide every last one of us in this world with. Just like the illusion of the UN as the peacekeepers. The reality is they're not. Because in the end, they play off our fears. Fears is power to them. When we start taking those fears away, when we start taking control of our lives and control back from them, because they control us through fear. They control us through the illusions they give us to give us peace of mind. But yet we see completely different pictures. Has the UN done good things? Yes, they have. There's the part when I talk about a little bit of truth. The truth is enough to keep you focused on. You see that. Then they bring in the scapegoat, symbol, America. We're the police force. We're the ones that are always the tip of the spear, the hammer. We're always the one they call to be the first ones in. So who gets the blame? We do, not the UN. They get to keep that knight in shining armor look while we become the villain. Further causing people to hate us, to have cause a division around the world. You know, why do any of our countries need the UN? We don't. Oh, we don't want to have another World War II. Well, we've had Vietnam. We've had the Cold War, which I know wasn't really a war. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. I'll not mention all these other countries that have had political collapses, Venezuela, genocides in Africa. Natural disasters. Sometimes we do see the UN come in. And we always get various reports of the treatment. We have many states that have adapted UN laws. We've seen the UN voice their opinions on property here in the U.S. when it comes to the Native Americans. They have no business dictating our politics, dictating anything in our sovereign nation. Especially when we didn't invite them. They use the fact we pay them dues as the invitation to manipulate our governmental policies, our state policies. I mean, some could say, well, we haven't had a world war. True, we have not since World War II. But we still had war. We still have famine. We still have genocide. We still have nations not having their sovereignties respected. My idea of peacekeepers is not somebody in an armored vehicle with machine guns on it, carrying machine guns. That's not a peacekeeper. Some will say, yes, it is. They're protecting us. That's the illusion, huh? Are they protecting you? I mean, let's look what happened in Syria, since that's the most recent. Let's look what keeps happening in Afghanistan, Iraq, Venezuela. And the list can go on and on. Some peacekeepers, they really are. You know, that's why I was kind of happy to hear the words I heard today, seeing what I've seen today. Because it was seen just not here in the U.S., but it was a good wake-up call to us. It was seen around the world, hence the shot heard around the world reference. It showed how much the UN really values the sovereignty of any nation. The idea of protecting one of our allies that they won't even recognize as a sovereign nation, as a state, sovereign state. I'm getting ready to do a video probably this weekend. I might actually do this one live for Christmas Eve. Axes and allies, good, evil, yin and yang. Kind of break down some of the meanings behind them, some of the illusions and realities of them. Because at one point in time, particularly during World War II, we were allied with Russia. Then the Cold War came about. Allies will come and go. They will change. There's a powerful message in that as well. The one thing we need to be idle and watchful for is these sanctuary states, thinking they can use the UN to secede from our country or bring them in to cause a incident. There is a danger there. We bring a foreign troop into our country to police something or do something, and a shot is fired that has major and damning consequences. Yes, I use the word damning because that's what it will be. It will give that foreign entity or foreign body, as the UN is, it's a foreign body, wanting to come in and take over our governmental procedures and policies. Everybody must have forgotten what happened in 2016 before Obama left office and an executive order he put in there saying we could use the UN here on U.S. soil. Let's talk about a traitor. A person that doesn't care about Americans, our Constitution, that shows he does not trust our National Guard, really doesn't trust our militia. But as I pointed out, what is the National Guard? In a sense, it is a militia. Nobody talks about the mercenary companies. I think they change their names so frequently it's not funny, but you know them as Blackadder, Blackwater, Paladine, and the list goes on. Overseas, we know them as the Foreign Legion. Private contractors for hire. Soldiers of fortune. We've seen in many cases, and especially during election seasons and stuff, or major events, how they'll hire through these private corporations to do their security. I mean, I don't got nothing completely wrong with the militias. Not militias, but the mercenary units out there that just now use a corporate name. Because it does give a place for our soldiers to go and get employment when they come out. But I also am glad that it is U.S. soldiers and not foreign, as the Foreign Legion is. It's still Americans. But there's also a danger there because they become what? Soldiers for hire. Which means you're going to have bad apples there. I don't look at it this way much, but I also, as you guys see, will play devil's advocate with everything because you have to. I know there'll be people in there that don't agree with everything. They agree with what they taught. Some of them are just, it's about the money. You paid me to do this. That's my orders. That's my job. I'm doing it. And there's only a few. As we see always, there's a few bad apples everywhere in every organization, no matter what you want to label it. Because I think some of us firmly believe anything would ever happen. Yeah, I wouldn't. If I was on the wrong side of that, I definitely wouldn't want them as my bodyguards for protecting my estate. But that's okay. They can have that illusion. I'm glad they have that illusion and that false security there. Because I know almost every single one of them, except for the few bad apples, are true patriots, true Americans. I would trust them over a foreign body to do anything on U.S. soil. The UN has no place on the U.S. soil with their military or their so peacekeepers. Funny, their peacekeepers look a lot like military, don't it? But I'm sure many of you could say that about us common folk with our guns, our carry and conceals, an open carry. Are we not peacekeepers ourselves? Big difference there, isn't there, guys? Because we only have one agenda, and that's protecting our country, our communities, our sovereignty, our freedoms, and our rights. That's why I point this out. That's the very thing they do not want. That's the very same thing they fear. Because they can't control us. You know, that's why when I hear these stories, sometimes I don't talk about them all right when they come up. Yes, today I'm actually talking about something that's actually happened today, but I want to talk about this fact because we see so much of what the UN says they represent, but yet we always see it's us at the front, us being used to be the scapegoat, the villain. Sometimes it's in situational and causes we'd probably never put ourselves in to begin with. The fact is, the UN uses our military as a mercenary unit. The only difference is we're not mercenaries because they don't pay us. We have to pay them to be a member of a group of the United Nations. And we pay the most out of any country. So yes, I would love to see that money taken from them, not given them to them, and put back in our country. There's so many things, those millions of dollars could go to help grow our country, make it even stronger and better. What does it also do? It stops allowing a United Nation to use us as an scapegoat. stops them from using us as the villains so they can walk away after their knight in white shining armors. There's plenty of countries that can step up. And yeah, but there's the danger. At least we know one country that won't. They'll never be the police force because they despise the UN. You know that. But we do know China would step up. Wouldn't they love to have that power that we've had? So there is a danger to this ideology and logic thinking because, like I said, there's always two sides of the coin. There's always moves and counter moves. Because we pull out, somebody has to take that role. And we got to be prepared and hope that it is an ally that takes that role. But I think we have enough allies that if we left the UN, we'd see other nations leave as well. At least that's wishful thinking. It would truly show who our real allies are. But it is definitely time things change. It is time that for our country, we put ourselves first. Not the United Nations, not foreign entities. It's time that we respect other sovereignties of the nations, their sovereignty. Have good trade with them, but not interfere in their politics. It's time we become a living embodiment by living by example. By showing the world that we're taking our country back. It's about our country. Let us start being that shining example that we've always been of doing the right thing. Many people around the world, if you ask them what they think their ideology of the American dream was, and mind you, this is older thinking. It was the very concepts of freedom. Be able to elect the people you want, to have your freedoms, your liberty, your rights, to be treated equal, and have a say in the people you put in office. Being patriots. We can bring that back. It's not going to be liked by other countries. Because when you start doing stuff like that, you cause movements to happen. We don't need to interfere in a political ideology of any country. We can just become that beacon or light again. And live by example, showing people that we don't want to be used as an scapegoat for another country. Countries will come to us asking for aid. They'll come to us asking for help. Nothing's ever changed. The illusion. It's been the rich man's power play to be puppet masters, pulling strings in every nation, in every country, oppressing countries that aren't part of the UN. No one ever questions. They take what they see for face value. They see that little bit of truth and they hang on to it without questioning. Okay, that was truthful. There's no need to question it farther. There's no more moves and counter moves. There's always moves and counter moves. That's why we also have to be very vigilant in everything here in the U.S. What is the moves and counter moves? Why do we have these states still holding on to being sanctuary city, opposing our Constitution, opposing our government? And, the biggest red flag to me on that, when first thing it popped up on the Google search was Snoop's fake. About politicians in Chicago calling for the UN to come in. Funny. Very funny. Two ways to look at this. Snoop's finally got something right. Or, once more, down the rabbit hole we go. Nothing to see here. These are not the droids you're looking for. We tell you what is fake and what is real. And it only takes a little bit of research, guys. Not hard to come up with your own opinion on that one when you check to see what they claim to be fake. And you dig a little bit deeper. And as I pointed out, well, wait, this major network actually covered this. So you're saying that's fake. Okay, thank you. But instead, they didn't use that major network. They used Zero Hedge or whatever it was to say it was fake. Nope, nothing to see there. They got it right. And it was funny, it was the first thing that popped up in the search feed. In fact, it was funny, I had to go about 5 pages in to find what I was actually looking for. Nope. So, my hopes are that people wake up. People, you want to have some fun? Put it out there what your views and opinions of the UN as an American. Are you tired of having a foreign body try to dictate our policies? Are you tired of us being the scapegoat? Are you tired of our military always being put on the front lines first over any other country so we become the villains? You have a voice. You have fingers, most of you. If not, Google's little voice typing thing works pretty good sometimes. You have a way to send a message, send a tweet to let your voices be heard. Tell our politicians, tell our president, remove us from the UN. Bring that millions of dollars back here where it can do us good, where it can be put into our infrastructure, our national debt, our health care, our homeless problem. Funny that California or West Coast in general, how the homeless rate has tripled in 2 years. I don't know how that happens. Oh, wait, when you take all that money you're getting from our government and giving it to illegals and not protecting the U.S. citizen, the ones that, as a state, you're sworn to protect and provide for. Now you'd rather take that money and spend millions of dollars on legal funds to protect an illegal person, to fight against our Supreme Court and saying our Supreme Court can't uphold the law, or that the Supreme Court is wrong, which I give you credit. You are right. They've been wrong on some things. And there's been Supreme Court justice that typed it out and said exactly what would happen. And guess what? What they said would happen has happened. But when it comes to our Constitution, the rights of the people, our freedoms and liberties, the protecting of the U.S. citizens, protecting of we the people, it's time you wake up. It's time we demand our freedoms back. You know, it's like a little Rand Paul's little speech today, or yesterday, whatever it was, about his filibustering thing. One, I don't want to hear cat in the hat again. Two, I agree with you, especially when it comes to that. But it doesn't matter. Why? Because you're not addressing the other problem. You're not addressing the legal problem. The legal problem is every last one of us has given consent. We committed a contract when we hit accept, when we signed up for Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Gab, and any other social platform. We agreed to a TOS, and the TOS states third parties. I want to break this down because what is third party again? Third parties? The UN is a third party. Believe it or not. You want to understand third party? UN. For every third party that we agree to, that third party has a third party, and that the new third party has another one. Down the line it goes. It allows them to access your information, use your information. You know, a while back, a couple years ago, actually about 4 years ago, I got a notice from the bank I was using, which is the family bank that we've used for since I can remember. My grandfather used it, Farmers and Merchants. They sent me a notification talking about third parties, how my information will be given out to third parties. Of course, you know, they put in there, well, that's not all your personal information. Uh-huh. Nope. Because I went in and asked them about it, talked to the bank manager. It's like, well, what's this about? Well, just some of your information can be given to third parties, such as investors, advertisers, you know, the government. For when you transfer money multiple times in different various amounts, which can draw a red flag. Oh. Or, because at the time I was working on building a business and running a business and using PayPal, I had a business account, still have the business account, that when I transfer money from PayPal to the bank, when I wire it electronically, I can be flagged for that because I agreed to the third party. I agreed to PayPal's third party extension. Same way with our phones, we agreed to third party and part of somewhere down the line, because, you know, they don't have to disclose who the third party is. That's the catch. Well, somewhere in that third party, we'll find a government agency attached to the third party, collecting your information, turning your phone on, listening to your conversations, and this goes on. It's the very same thing. The UN is a third party. We pay dues to them. So they set some laws and counter legislations and stuff that they want us to adhere to. We pay them dues. They expect us when military, and they need our military, that our military be readily available for them. Why do I call it a third party? Because it's made up of multiple groups. Groups that don't always represent our ideology, our way of life, our beliefs. Doesn't recognize our Constitution, our freedoms and liberties. And there's a few on there that do. But those that do, let's just say 9 as in case of today. Those 9 countries that voted against the veto thing. It had nothing to do with the veto. It was another sanctioning body so they could get around our veto. What that was just smoke and mirrors. They put on the illusion, okay, you vetoed, we don't care. We'll go over, we'll create this other separate bot, take it over a separate body, call it a different form of legislation, and tell you can't do it. Number one, you can't tell us what we can and can't do. That was your mistake for believing that illusion. And you could threaten, you can do all of this, yes. Which is something else we're going to have to be careful for. If we would go down the road of just, saying, flipping the bird and saying, go screw yourself. But, I would use other colorful language to iterate the point. Why I wouldn't be a good politician. It will be repercussions. They want repercussions. They see the same thing I see. That we've become an example, a beacon, a light, a symbol. And others would follow that. Once more, we're threatening their structure of control. We're taking the fear away. We're showing that fear that they think they control all of our nations, all these countries' sovereignties with, is nothing but an illusion that will vibrate like throwing a rock in a pond. It'll start rippling and other countries will follow. And they lose their control, which is what they fear. Fear is a weapon. And it can be used both ways. Why do we see our politicians acting the way they do? Why do we see them so upfront? Because they're scared. They finally feel that fear of losing the control that they thought they had. Why they crack down on people that free think and speak their minds, have their own opinions, because it is a ripple. It is a rippling effect. Others people see it, hear it, and it causes motion. It starts to slowly strip away people's fear, the illusion of fear and control. They don't want us to have time for ourselves. They don't want us to have extra money to spend on things. And trust me, they're going to try to make it so that we'll end up working more hours. Because, I've talked about this when it comes to, hey, having more to spend is great. You got an argument with my dad about this. It is a business principle. It's a business theory. You cut taxes and lower your taxes, you'll have more money. That's the ideology of it, which is sound ideology because it actually works. If you got more money, you catch up on your bills, you're able to spend more, so you're going to go out and do things. You're going to go to the theaters. You're going to the stores and buy the things that you actually wanted, but you had to put your needs first. Now you can actually put some of those wants first. So by doing that, it gets taxed, and it starts generating money. Yes, it doesn't happen at first, and yes, it can cause a little deficit. The theory and ideology behind it is if you have more money to spend, you're putting that money back into the system. They're collecting more taxes on it because why? More money is being spent. So It actually is generating revenue instead of loss. But that's where the theory and the ideology stops, because it goes back to what I said. We can raise the minimum wage all we want. Well, usually when you do that, what happens? Oh yeah, you go up a tax bracket. Oh, that $5 a gallon milk that you're paying for just went up to 10. Now you actually have less money, because by the time you pay the taxes, and since there's no regulations to stop them from raising the price of the products to match the increase of the increase that you got in their wage, you're now making less. Like I said, reality, illusion. There's an illusion there. There's an illusion of, hey, we're going to increase your wage. Like a couple organizations says, we're going to raise everybody's wages up to $15 that we're making minimum wage. Ha ha. So basically what you're doing, you're forcing them out of that low tax bracket they had. Now that they're going to get more money to spend and be able to do things with, you're going to increase their wage so they jump a tax bracket. Yep, like I said, nothing to see here. These ain't the droids you're looking for. There's always a catch. There's always moves and counter moves. You know, if our politicians, as they claim to be, our politicians, were about us, really, they would start passing laws that prevent corporations from raising the prices to match an increase. Nothing wrong with corporations making money. It's a good thing. But set a limit. So you're still making money, so you still have money in your pocket. Instead of still paying the same damn price for like 5 gallons of milk. And actually you're not even paying the same damn price because you jump tax brackets. And you're paying a higher tax, so therefore now you have less. More is coming out of your check. So it makes that $10 gallon of milk now essentially, let's just say 15. Wow, I just got $15 an hour. Yeah, well, that $15 an hour just paid for that gallon of milk because nobody put regulations to prevent them from gouging the market. You now make less. You know, so there's no, like I said, reality of it. It's all nice. It's all great. I do love the fact that, certain groups of people are complaining that we got a tax deduction. It shows you their mentality. It shows you how much they despise you, how much they don't want you to have things. They want you under their foot. And there's no illusion there. That's just flat out reality. Like I said, like him, hating, agree with him or not, sometimes when you put a force like Trump in the way of people that think they can run things through illusion, and they start seeing that illusion come crumbling away. And they start realizing there's a force behind the American people, the ones that they thought they had always under their foot. He created a movement, whether he intended to or not, that shook the foundations of this country. It woke people up. It showed these corrupt politicians for who they are. Because every time he puts a tweet, look at them. They come crawling out the woodwork. Look at the scandals that are going on, things that are being brought to light. Yeah, that was one hell of a effect. He caused so much chaos, so much pandemonium, that he shook the very foundations, and they don't know how to react. So instead of doing things not in the open, they're just now blatantly all in the open, making fools of themselves, showing us what snakes they really are. So you got something right. We got something right at least. We're getting to see these people for what they really are. We're getting to see the UN for what it really is, which is not a peacekeeper. That's the illusion. It's not valuing our interests. They don't care what we think. In fact, they despise what we think and believe. And they've talked about policies and stuff, how they want us to do, our Congress to do away with our Second Amendments, how they want us to censor your freedoms of expressions and speech. Those aren't the American ideology. That's not American values. But it is definitely certain other sovereignties, ideologies, and beliefs that hate us. But in the end, who knows what's going to happen? I'd like to see that we just completely pull out. I'd like to see that innuendo that was given today be a reality. And when it comes next year, when it's time to pay dues, go screw yourself. We're done with you. We're tired of being your scapegoat. That's the beautiful thing about Make America Great and all that push that was behind it. How people stood up, started realizing that we can make our country great again. We can be that shining example, that light that so many people flocked to. So many people wanted to be a part of. They wanted it for their own countries. We don't have to interfere in anybody's politics. We don't have to be the peacekeepers, or not the peacekeepers, but the military force around the world. We don't have to be the UN's police. In fact, we're far more dangerous than that. We don't need our military to do that. When we become that beacon, people see it. It's a ripple effect. They want what we have. They want those freedoms, those liberties, values that we so treasure and cherish. The very same things that certain politicians try to take from us every day. Out of this year, all the things we've seen happen, there's been good and bad. I must say it's been an enlightening year. We're starting to see people for who they really are. We're starting to see the illusions that was what been sown for us. We've seen how much control they actually tried to control us. We started questioning again. We started remembering who we are as a country, who our forefathers were. And yes, now that I get onto that subject, a certain politician out there needs to keep our founding fathers, my ancestors, my descendants, names out of her mouth. And my family's still waiting for a public apology. After all, I am a descendant of John Rutledge. And yes, my forefathers would be mad to see the state of our government today. Many of our politicians are doing exactly what our founding fathers opposed, did not want for this country. So when Nancy Pelosi speaks out and says our founding fathers would be ashamed, would be rolling over in the graves, oh, that part's actually true. Because they would. Because of people like her. The very same person that wanted to lie and say that my forefather had his property, lost all of his property during the Confederate Civil War. It was taken by the Confederates. No, he did not. I know my history. I've read the journals. I know my family history. He never lost his property. He died on this property. And because of consolidating debt and being an alcoholic, it was turned over to sold and turned over to the state to pay off his debts. It was never taken by the Confederate, as she said. And that's actually in history. But yet, she wanted to say that happened. But then again, it goes back to what I said. Well, let's look what state she's from, what state she represents. Yeah, sanctuary city, a city that doesn't honor our Constitution, does not honor our Supreme Court. You know, as far as the UN thing and the talks about Chicago, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I've heard a few people actually say it's not. And that's not the point. The point is, okay, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Snoops didn't help with that one when they said it was fake. They would have done better just ignoring that and keeping, not even doing anything, and people probably would have blown it off. But it's an example. It's an example how things could play out. An example how these states doesn't want to recognize our National Guard. They rather call in a foreign entity, a foreign body. I'm sorry, but I could see that happening with some of these politicians and elected officials. They've got their backs against the wall. They're scared. They realize that they've lost control. They can't control the people through fear anymore. They can't lie and mislead people anymore. And every day they are showing their true colors. So yes, I could see states, especially the sanctuary states, reaching out to a foreign body, which is even another reason, even though it's theory, it's even more reason to end our ties with the UN. It's also another reason for Trump to make an executive order removing the one Obama put in 2016 of June, giving him permission for the UN to hold operations here on U.S. soil. We don't need a foreign body to do our police work. We have police. We have the National Guard, and we also have militia. You know what else we have? You. We the people, the everyday American citizen who knows what's right, knows what's wrong, knows how to defend their property. Which is the very concept that they despise, they fear, and they hate. They hate the fact that you have those freedoms, those liberties and rights. Why be a part of an a body of the United Nations that don't hold those same values and views and beliefs as we do? Keep re-electing these very same politicians into office. Why are we not demanding that these states be held accountable? The Supreme Court has ruled on this case when it comes to sanctuary cities. You have no place. You will not get funding. And if you don't cooperate, fine, you just violated the laws. Start charging them for violation of those laws. And we as the people, let our voices be heard on that. Speak up, saying we want this to stop. We want that money they're spending on all these legal cases to fight the illegal immigration because they won't recognize it as illegal. It's just called immigration. No, it is called illegal for a reason. Quit playing the word game to try to mislead people. They came over illegally. There is a right way to come over and a legal way to come over. When you violate the law, no matter who you are, you're held accountable to it. And I'd like to start seeing that with some of these politicians as well. Break this double standard. The law applies equally to everyone. With that said, you also need to give that person their day in court. I mean, the justice system is very bad on so many levels. I mean, the justice sometimes is very blind because I've explained this before. You might as well be a businessman or a salesman because that's what you're doing when you go to court. You're trying to get the jury to believe your interpretation of the law, how you interpret. You're trying to sell your interpretation over the prosecutor's interpretation, or the prosecutor is trying to get the jury to buy their interpretation of it. That's why I say why it's important to pay attention to the laws in other states as well. Because once they're on the books, they can be referenced in courtrooms. That's how they manipulate the laws. Okay, this court interpreted it this way, so it's on the docket, so it's been a legal case. Now I can use this case and cite it in front of the court to manipulate the jury to favor it my way, to show them that there's other reasons. Laws are dangerous that way. It's a two-edged sword. That's why the real criminals usually, especially the richer ones, can walk. Because they know how to manipulate and play the system. Like I said, there's lots of changes that need to happen here in our country. Our legal system needs fixed, big time. And yes, even our immigration system needs a drastic fix. I'm talking about the legal part of it, the people that come over here that want to become U.S. citizens, who believe in our values, believe in our freedoms and liberties and rights. They want that. They want to be a part of that. It's hard for them to get U.S. citizenship. Legal fees alone is outrageous. Yes, I have some experience on this. Like I said, my mom is from Brazil. She was a Brazilian. And she had to go through hoops to become a U.S. citizen. And go through, I can't remember how much money, this was in 2000, when she decided to become a U.S. citizen. instead of, and she had to spend a lot of money in legal stuff and be able to go through the process. So it's not easy. And there's things that could be changed to better that system. So we're getting people that do work, that will believe in the values that we uphold. You know, because the shocking thing of that, after 9/11, so much shit changed. Nobody reads the fine print. I actually read the fine print on passports. Well, since I do have dual citizenship, mind you, I could never go back to Brazil anyway, because, difference of embassies. This embassy here, and the Brazilian embassy here in the United States, says I never have to choose my nationality. Get in Brazil, a different story. The embassy there says I do when I turned 18. Well, screw you. I'm not choosing. Well, mainly, actually, when I turned 16. Because when you turn 16 in Brazil, you're mandatory. It's mandatory that you enter the military as a male. It's also mandatory to pay to vote. So if I would ever go back, I couldn't afford to go back anyway because I would be facing legal actions for not paying to vote. Oh wait, but you read the passport, you pay any foreign entity tax, or then it's a whole nice long list of fine print of things you can't pay another country for. You'd lose your U.S. citizenship. Which I have, because my dad is an American. I was born on U.S. soil. Like I said, they put the stuff in fine print like they do the third-party stuff. It gives you the illusion of your freedoms. And if they ever chose, well, because I do talk about subjects like this, it could come back and haunt me later. They could say, oh, you were talking about this. You're not allowed in our country. Or, man, we'll just hem him up over here because he paid taxes over there or some crap. Like I said, a lot of changes need to happen here. Thus far, I liking some of the things I'm seeing. I like the fact that, for one, we're going to respect other sovereignty. Great statement. Never thought I'd see that come back up. Like I said, moves and countermoves. Why did he tell all these countries that, well, he's trying to make deals and better our economy and stuff, make trade relations. But he made that an emphasis on every place he went. Then this comes up with the UN. Once more, sovereignty at stake. Respecting our sovereignty, which they did not. They never have. Moves and countermoves. Sometimes I think people don't realize that that man is so far ahead in moves, and we're all just catching up, not realizing the things that are coming about. He's playing a grand game of chess before, in front of everyone, making them think, question, always 30 steps ahead. And something that's needed to happen for a very long time is us leaving the UN. Let's invest that money into something better. you know, let's respect everyone else's sovereignty and mind our own business. Only help when asked, and only if it's a right cause. It's important to protect our allies and be there for our allies, but it's much more important to protect ourselves. Our country, our nation, our sovereignty should come first before any others. And we should never align ourselves with those that do not hold or value the things we do. If our countries would take that mentality, I think the world would be a better place. Just a little bit. Start focusing on your own countries, how to make it better for your own people. Don't need a government and a separate body of international people to tell any nation what they can and cannot do. What they can and cannot do in their own country. So in a sense, the idea of moving our embassy to Jerusalem, like I said, is moves and countermoves. There's more to it than just that. It's about showing people what the UN's really about. Showing that they don't care about us. They don't care about our rights and freedoms. They don't care about our sovereignty, our beliefs. That was the message that the UN showed the world today. And our message in innuendo was simple. We're going to remember this. We're not going to forget who voted, how people voted. When you come asking for aid, or when it's time to pay you millions of dollars for our dues, we're going to remember this. I hope we do remember this. I hope it wasn't empty words and empty innuendos. Because innuendos is a form of illusion that can be looked at in many different prospects. We use innuendo sometimes to convey things in non-threatening ways. Convey that there may be repercussions to these decisions. There may not be. Which is why, so many times I keep telling you guys, question everything. Think outside the box. Play devil's advocate. It goes back to what I stated in previous videos and theories before. What if? What if that's what they wanted? They wanted Trump to be elected. That's why Hillary was his opponent instead of Bernie Sanders. Because they knew, they perceived and realized how much chaos this man would cause, how much division. Works both ways. We cannot ever overlook the aspect of that. It's a possibility. And maybe it backfired on him. Who knows? Maybe that's not even what it really happened. But by looking at that, it makes us question, it makes us realize, hey, let's not take everything at face value. And it allows us to keep watch over things better. When we see something like, wait, I personally don't believe that scenario, that theory, but I had to question it. It was too perfect not to question. not to put the shoes on somebody else's shoes on my feet and see why they're seeing it this way. Or why ain't nobody questioning it this way? Why was so much division stirred up? And like I said, that could have been the original goal. And it could have been severely backfired on him. He was the monkey wrench that just threw everything into chaos, every operating system out of whack. And he's still doing it. And what we are seeing from it, seeing the UN for what they really are, we're seeing almost all of our politicians for what they really are, even though we knew it. They're just being upfront, blatant. We're seeing what our Hollywood stars are about. We're seeing how our education system, how Common Core's affected things. We're seeing the rippling effects of it. We're seeing more and more people question things. And that is a good thing. Because when you start questioning, you start taking away their illusion of control. You start taking that fear away from them that they think they possess over us. And we're taking the fact away, we're not going to believe everything you tell us anymore. But, yeah, I went a little bit longer than I intended to, so I'm going to wrap this up tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, these are just ramblings of my chaotic mind. I've been wanting to talk on this topic for a little while now. I figured why not, today would be a great day for it. Like I said, I hope you guys all have a good evening, safe holidays, safe travels, and just enjoy life for a bit. Have fun. And take in the good times. I will see you guys all in the next video, which I am actually thinking about Christmas Eve. We'll see. Like I said, I don't have no plans for the holiday season, so I might come on here and spend it with you guys. But until the next one, you guys have fun. Be safe.